And joining me live is Deputy Opposition Leader Sussan Ley. Now, Susan, good to see you again. 7 Labor ministers received upgrades on Qantas flights, some first class and on international flights following the decision to block Qatar Airways, a Qantas competitor. How does that sit with you?
It doesn't sit well to listen to the Prime Minister yesterday, Kenny, and anyone who heard that train wreck press conference in Newcastle would have just shaken their head and said he's clearly failing the character test big time, and he's just not being straight with the Australian people. I'm pleased if his ministers are being straight, but he's not being straight. Yes, he says, I declared upgrades. But the point is, he hasn't answered the question honestly about whether he picked up the phone, asked for them, made it known that he and his family were travelling privately and actually solicited those upgrades. Now, not giving a straight answer to that question is the point here. And after soliciting upgrades, if indeed that's what's happened, did he then prioritise the interests of a company over ordinary Australians in a cost of living crisis? That really does demonstrate a Prime Minister who's out of touch.
It would have led to cheaper airfares for the rest of us, experts believe. So should the government's decision in blocking Qatar Airways for extra flights down the East Coast be investigated?
You know, I sat through so many questions about that in the Parliament, but the Prime Minister just sidesteps and laughs off questions on this, as he did with genuine questions from us and others at the time, Kenny. And the hapless Transport Minister was sent out time and time again to obfuscate in her answers. It was clear that no one was being straight with the Australian people, and I'm pretty annoyed about that because you're quite right. Fares were higher than they needed to be, and a Prime Minister wasn't being upfront and honest with what had happened regarding access to Australia by Qatar Airways. And now we see in Joe Aston's book that there were actual conversations, a long-term relationship, and flight upgrades were solicited. Now, the Prime Minister's blaming a journalist. Journalists are just doing their job. Can I say that after Newcastle, the Prime Minister flew to Albury-Wodonga, my hometown, where he announced something, and then refused to take questions from journalists, actually walked away from local regional journalists with genuine questions about our health and hospital system and genuine questions about regional Australia. How dismissive and arrogant can you get?
So, do you agree with Peter Dutton that Anthony Albanese should be referred to the Integrity Commission and has breached Labor's ministerial code of conduct?
He should refer himself. Yesterday he said, I've done nothing wrong several times, and seemed very affronted that people were questioning him. I mean, you actually do get questions as Prime Minister and you do have to answer them. So if he wants to demonstrate that he's done nothing wrong, then that's exactly what he should do. He should refer himself to the NAC.
Do Coalition MPs have anything to worry about in terms of flight upgrades?
No, they don't. And as a Transport Minister responsible for the regulatory controls of Australia's main airline, Qantas, the position that Anthony Albanese was in, to then solicit flight upgrades, that is, it's bewildering. It's completely out of order. It questions everything that goes to the heart of the character of this Prime Minister. What planet was he on to think that that was okay? And then now, when he's called out about it, not to be upfront. So he does have questions to answer. And let's see if he answers them today. As I said, he was running away from journalists in my hometown yesterday. He needs to turn around and he needs to front a full press pack and actually answer their questions honestly. As you know, Kenny, journalists are just doing their job.